Good morning, Wild and Well Together listeners and community. This is another episode of Her Huddles with Jen and Becca. We are so glad that you're here. Last week, we cheers to week 30 or episode 30, which is crazy. And the topic was wild. So when you think of our name, wild and well, and bottom line is that we're together. This week, we're discussing well. And what does it mean? Wellness and body and mind, all those things. What I really want to talk about is redefining wellness beyond just the green smoothies or the gym memberships, the perfect morning routines, if that can even exist. But to really help us as listeners and community members understand and see that wellness is ongoing and caring for our body, our mind, our soul, and is this holistic approach of whether we're 95, like my grandma who I just visited, or we are, in our 20s or 30s and beyond, that we are living a life that really meets us in the ordinary and messy. Like, we don't have to, yes, we can go on grandiose trips, or yes, we can have the top membership or get a massage weekly. Like, that sounds really good for my spirit, as if I had a massage weekly. However, for my bank account and other things, I do not get that. And so really just thinking through what are the different pieces of our lives and components that allow us to come into a space of wellness and mind, body, and the rest of our existence. Before we get into wellness and being well, what is our unpopular opinion, Jen?
Popular opinion this week is football or football. And if you know, you know. But if you don't know, what I'm referring to is like World Cup soccer football or American helmet wearing football. So that's the unpopular opinion of this week. I don't know. It maybe an even split. I'm not sure. We're sort of just off the heels of the World Cup or the finals of the World Cup, or maybe this week if you're listening to when we just came out with this episode. But yeah, American football is right around the corner. So with that in mind, what is your pick, Becca?
To quote Danny from Ted Lasso, football is life. I grew up playing soccer. I grew up playing football. And so, hands down, I am, soccer, pro World Cup, and just how it brought it people together and repping our jerseys, our shirts, our kits. I was devastated. We did not show up. The USA did not show up. We only had 3 shots when we got eliminated. So can't win a 90-minute game with only 3 shots on goal. Yeah, so that was hard to see the US, but nonetheless, love the sport of football. I do also love American football and cheering for them. And so come Sunday afternoons, that's where I'll be, is watching American football. But I'm very grateful. Colorado has a professional women's league now, which is incredible, or professional women's team rather, to play in the National League. And so just stoked to have that in Colorado. But pro football. What about you? Football or football?
I'm on the same page as you. I prefer soccer football as well. I think it's not that I don't enjoy American football. I just prefer global football.
Cool. Love that. I'm for it. All right. So let us know. Are you, football or football? But looking at this, really thinking through, when you hear the words wellness, what comes to mind? For example, especially when I say like mind, body, soul, I'm like, oh, that's a yoga term or phrase. And I'm like, no, it's so much more than that. Is it meal prep? Is it expensive supplements? Is it a woman drinking green juice on top of a mountain that she woke up at 3 a.m. to climb, right? Or is it social media influencers that are like doing this expensive, exclusive, unattainable lifestyle? What are the things that come to mind? And then us coming back to this place like, no, wait, what does that mean for me? How do we redefine wellness so it works for my family of 1, so it works for my family of 2, so it works for my family of 10, whatever it may be. But what is wellness in this world that we want to live a more full life, meaning wild, untamed, not reckless, but fun, and also a well life, a life that is just enjoyable. And like, I do have the longevity, hopefully, of a 95-year-old woman or a 100-year-old woman. And so just thinking through that, what are your thoughts on this idea of wellness and where either we stop short or how we can push through to a healthy existence?
Yeah, I think it's just one of those words that's so big it doesn't mean anything anymore. Like it's so expansive. It can mean so many different things that I think it's almost like what we have to do with the word and the concept is define it for ourselves and then move from there and not use other people's definition of it as something that we just like blindly adopt because it's just impossible. That it's such a customizable experience. Like wellness is so personal, it's so circumstantial. And to think that I think what being well or having wellness or practicing wellness could be a singular look a singular way, I think is unhelpful. So I agree that I think we need to take some creativity and like personal direction with it that we need to define it for ourselves before I think the term can really be helpful.
Love it. So, like, if I go into that and I just Googled it, but the active pursuit of activities, choices, and lifestyles that lead to holistic health, but specifically an evolving process of making daily choices that help you achieve your full potential and thrive in your environment. And so, as you were sharing that, I'm like, shoot, I need to define it too. So let's just define it for everyone listening. I think about that specifically too, where last week I brought up cottage cheese, right? And cottage cheese is a part of my holistic, like as I try and eat so many proteins and so many fibers, because Lord knows I need that for the bathroom. But we'll leave it at that because we are ladies and dainty in this podcast. For those of you that know me, that's probably not the truth, but nonetheless, will be appropriate for now is just saying like I'm trying to live a healthier lifestyle. And for me, it's not about the looks nearly as much as it is about I want to be able to lift and to move and to play and to dance and not to be I have a family of 4 now, and so out of the 4 of us, I wanna make sure that I am not the last slowing people down, because for the last 5 years, I put the other 3 above me in a way that was unhealthy, and in a way that I didn't take care of my body system, so I didn't have the energy that I wanted to, and over the last 18 months, that has changed, and please hear me say again, I've had 2 babies and a hysterectomy, so, like, even understanding that and what's wellness during those seasons of life. For some of it, it was just getting food into my body, or it was, hey, go for a walk, or it was like through some of the mental health things, it was let me call my mom and sister, or let me talk to you, Jen, and like some of my other really good people in my life and saying, like, hey, this is where I'm at. And the fitness side will come later. But really, again, that evolution of sitting in it and figuring out what do I love? Well, I've come to be like, I need more protein because I don't have enough energy. And so cottage cheese, full circle, to make a long story short, cottage cheese is like one of the best ways for me to get that in my body. And so I just think about different things of like what works for me. Whereas if I put that down my kids' throats, I'd be cleaning up vomit. And so again, here in the first 5 minutes, I've given us bathroom talk both ways, but we'll go from there of just like what helps us as individuals, to your point, and what works for me and my family may or may not work for you. And I think in a world where we try and people please, in a world where people are trying to make a hustle monetarily speaking, there's these fads and these trends that are like the best and greatest wellness tip and tool is this X. And it's like, okay, do I do it or do I not? And it's like, okay, 6 months later or 2 months later, it's like, here's the next one and the next one and the next one. And we go crazy with how much access we have now where it's like, whoa, wellness may actually look like me not following any trends for a season of life and me just completely unplugging and doing what I need. So that's on the fitness side or the physical side. What I'll throw out is I'm really wrestling with we went on a trip to visit Nick's family internationally and we left on the 7th of June. I have yet to go back onto socials properly and post anything since the 7th of June. And I don't miss it. And my brain has clarity. And I'm kind of struggling with that tension, full transparency, because I misconnected with some of the people. However, I'm like, I've gone on and gotten their DMs. That sounds silly. I'm like sliding into your DMs as if I know. But I'm like, hey, can you shoot me a text? Like, I'm just not on here very much. And I've gotten those numbers. And so then I connect with them that way. And there's a creative art that I miss in certain things. But for the clarity and the headspace that I have not being on socials, I'm like dancing with this tension of need to be on for business purposes and connection and also like, I'm not spending nearly as much time. So the things I practiced or preached for the last 6 months, how do I really practice them and put them into my life? And what does that look like? To not be cut full turkey, like just to cut it off, but to also say like, hey, what rhythm is it just on Fridays that I check? Or is it just on Tuesdays that I check? Or like, just again, what are some of those rhythms? So those would be 2 places in my own personal life. Cottage cheese, again, to bring it in full circle. We are not sponsored by cottage cheese, but I would love that. Love that. And 2, the dance and the health and wellness of digital. We talked about detox to really turning into fasting. Like, what does that look like? My rhythms there. What about for you? What are some like wellness pieces that you're finding really, really make a difference? of Jen 2020 compared to Jen or whatever year you want to do, but like this version of Jen who's so true and awesome in that year, and now Jen 2026. What are you looking at?
Yeah, I think it's just one thing I think a lot about is like the pace and the volume of the different things that I do for my health. And sometimes they're all dialed way up, and sometimes they're dialed down a little bit more. And the pace of my life is such right now that I'm just dialing them back a bit. And that's what I need in my wellness practice right now. And other times I'm dialing them up, which is also great when I have capacity for that. So yeah, I think it's just being adaptive and like really listening to like, how does my body feel? How does my mind feel? What am I committing to? How many times a week am I feeling like I'm putting pressure on myself to get exercise? And like, is that really needed? Or am I just like, is that like a hypothetical thing I'm putting out there? You know what I mean? So I think, yeah, just thinking about pace and volume. I think I have a lot of pillars in my life, and then it's usually I'm dialing up or I'm dialing down during any given season.
We haven't talked about pace, but as you're sharing that, I'm like, yep, that pace of life, that needs to be one of our next topics as we figure out what Wild and Well Together, the podcast is gonna look like once we hit our 100th episode, and just some of the changes that we're making for our own lives. And again, cheersing to the 100th episode. That's amazing. And I can't thank you enough. And also, as you talk about fullness and you talk about busyness in other pieces or pacing due to other pieces of your life being so full, I am thinking fully, like, I'm in this moment of you do a phenomenal job, Jen, of being like, "Hey, here's exactly what I have. This is when I can do it. This is when I can't do it, and here's this." And like it just is so clear. And I'm like, fly by the seat of my pants almost of like, well, when the wind says like, well, I can make it this time, or that time. And Nick is really like, Beck, figure out what like when to dial in, because when you say yes to so many different things, then you have to say no to some of the most important things to you. And so I think that that's going to be something in my own journey over the next 6 months of really figuring out like, what do I want and how do I say no to a lot of things that I've said yes to that are good things and are things that are fulfilling in some regards, but are not great things and are not things that allow me to really live out that wellness and live into that purpose or that untamed wildness of like freedom and joy and hope and the things that we want. Please notice me say not like happiness is not one of those pieces. Happiness is a byproduct of that, but really like coming into my fullness there and that wellness of like, okay, who and what allows me to really enjoy life and to have this holistic practice daily. And in a season that's very full because of work demands or because of parenting demands or because of other responsibilities each of us have, that's what we need to come back to, right? Is like, what is that pace and what is that capacity that I have there? And how do I step into it further? So I've written down pace because I'm like, that's just sitting with me. So I don't know where you and I go. We don't have to have that answer today, but like, I mean, if you have something on that more, great. Otherwise, I think that might be, do we start doing month-long sessions of like, all right, checking in, where are we? Like, where's our community at as far as the pace of life, and in a world that says do and go and divisive this, divisive that. Let me give you a reason why I'm against something. How do we pause and slow down and say, hey, here's where I'm saying no to certain things. Here's where I'm saying yes to others. And actually, in that slower pace or in that very direct pace that I'm in control of, this is the things that I'm for. And these are the people I'm for. And then we start to have these healthier, more wellness, well-being, if you will, focused conversations. So I love that because I think a lot of us are just have crazy brain fog or shorter patience or increased irritability because our pace of life is insane. And it's like, let me just check into ChatGPT or let me just say yes to 15 things because I can. Can I do them well? Do they serve me? Do they serve my community? How many? How frequently? And instead of asking all those, we're like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. Yeah, sure. Yeah, 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 yeah. And then it's like, oh my gosh, like we talked about last week, I don't really know who I am anymore. Or why would I climb a tree or come alive or go to a dance party or dance in my kitchen when I've got 15 other things to do? And so it almost becomes this subconscious, I'm just putting one foot in front of the other again, trying to survive. So I know, I think about that a lot of how do we find clarity and how do we choose things for ourselves because, like, what really matters in life, and I know that those are, like, big, deep questions, so I think we have to come back to the more minute, practical day in and day out, but for you, trusting the statement that wellness isn't about perfection, wellness is about finding resilience and creating minute or smaller practices to live a life worth living, what would you say are some of those things that really you enjoy right now in this season of life?
I think about a different I just think about one big Venn diagram. I think about wellness as one big Venn diagram for me personally, and it's like a mix of physical and mental and emotional and spiritual and financial and all these different facets. And so yeah, I think certain things feel better in certain times, but yeah, I think especially it being summer, just being outside for me is one thing that I really try to prioritize in this season because, yeah, it is so great to be outside and feel that sunshine, even if it's, I'm easing up on myself and saying, I'm just going to go for a walk today. I'm not going to actually get like real cardio in. A walk is going to be my version of that today because I'm also getting vitamin D, and this is also good for my mental health and things like that. Yeah, trying to think about all the different pieces of the Venn diagram, and I just think at any given point in time, I think about it as like one big menu of things that I could do for any area of my wellness. And in this moment today, maybe it's even on a day to day basis, we're doing this, but I'm just like picking things from the menu that help me feel my best today or this month, whatever it may be. And I think that that also helps. I don't know. I think there's some freedom in that too. And like that framing for me, I like because I also don't feel like what I choose today, I have to be so regimented about it that I have to choose it in 3 months, that it has to still be working for me in 3 months. And for me, I need the optionality and I need to be fluid with like how I'm feeling. What do I have going on? What's the weather like outside? Am I traveling a lot? Am I home a lot? Because those things are very different, like what I pick from my wellness menu,
Yes.
depending on so many different factors. So yeah, I think being fluid and focusing on just like optionality and knowing that like because it is a Venn diagram, any one thing I pick is gonna have benefit elsewhere as well.
Come on now. Jen in the house, love that. As you're talking about that, I'm like, I create a list of, like, some things that I used to have as barriers. I'll take care of myself when. And I was like, when work slows down, when the kids get older, when summer comes, when I lose weight, when I have more money, or when life gets less busy. So I, like, noticed, okay, when work slows down or life gets less busy, and I'm like, "No, wait, those things aren't gonna happen unless I currently." Like, me saying no to those things or me choosing those things is also actually me saying I'm taking care of myself. So to your point of, like, a Venn diagram, it's that, oh, when I take care of myself, those things actually do slow down or life gets less busy or I end up losing weight because I'm actually taking care of myself. Some of those things, and so it's like chicken or the egg, it doesn't actually matter. It's saying, "Okay, these are where the intersections and how do I start somewhere?" And pick some other things. And so really thinking as like what helps us live life and how can we do that? And so for you, you've helped me with like unplugging from my phone at night. And so I go to bed earlier instead of finishing another task. And then now saying no without apologizing and drinking more water, calling a friend and then this next one is what you're talking about with walking of like mine's taking a walk instead of scrolling, going to counseling. I'll put that plug in always for people. And then laughing until my stomach hurts. I've just really said I really enjoy fun and joy and laughter. And so I'm going to put people in my life, whether it's on TV or it's people around me that make me laugh because I'm not funny, but I love life and I love joy and I just want people to find more like gut wrenching meaning in life. And so where it's like, oh, yes. And that's awesome. And then the final one is letting myself rest without earning it. So this permission of like, okay, I can just say no and take a nap, or I can say no to other things and simply just go to bed or lay in the sun. I'm like, how do some people read so many books? And I'm like, because they choose to. They don't have to earn that. Whereas I'm like, I can only read a book once I have everything else done for my list. And so my like second half of 2026 is saying, nope, I'm going to read books because I'm going to say, in this moment, I'm going to pause what I'm doing and I'm going to go read for 30 minutes on the couch or in the sun and just enjoy it. So those are just some different, as you talked about a menu, I like saw those, or a Venn diagram where I'm like, okay, what are some of the things actually that I've done as I've taken time for myself to say in my wellness era, which hopefully then is for the rest of my life, but with a really curated focus on wellness.
Mm,
What do I want?
yeah.
And it being specifics, and those ones actually aren't even about food or weight or anything like that for the most part. So thinking through that, the last thing I'll leave it with for people on my end is wellness is more than physical health. Yes, it is physical health, but it's also more than that. And so at Wild and Well Together, we include mental health. So these are reflection questions. What am I thinking? Emotional wellness. What am I feeling? Social wellness. Who helps me feel connected? Connected is one of the greatest pillars we can have to ourselves and to life. Physical wellness, I do want to include that, is how am I caring for my body? And then purpose or spiritual wellness. Am I living in alignment, which feels like a gag word almost at this point, but do I know what matters most? Am I connected with? Am I living in a way that gives me meaning? Maybe it's with God, maybe it's with others, but really thinking through that purpose question. And so none of these exist in isolation. And this is what brought me into that Venn diagram is none of these exist in isolation. They influence each other in every other way every day. So again, just going over it as a reminder, mental wellness, emotional wellness, social wellness, physical wellness, and then what I call spiritual wellness or purpose. Finding that. So those 5 things. What do you have for us before we head out?
Yeah, our journal prompt for today is, what does my version of wellness need to make room for that no one else's plan or menu maybe accounts for?
Ask it one more time.
What does my version of wellness need to make room for that no one else's plan or maybe their menu of wellness activities accounts for?
Beautiful. Making room for it. All right. This is on the spot, but because I know life is busy for both of us and we have things, big things and good things happening for each of us, we're going to come back to that actually. And I'm making a note of it. So you and I can actually ask that back to each other and be accountability partners in it, which sounds serious, which basically is just let's be friends in that and actually show up for one another in that. So love you dearly, Jen. Cheers to episode 31 and getting that much closer to our Masogi, our 100th episode. And not because it's about the destination, but rather just the journey that we're having on it. And it's a cool check mark. So thank you to the community for being a part of this, for being part of the wild side, the well side. And yeah, this is another episode of Her Huddles. Thanks for joining the huddle. Be well, y'all.
See you.